Yes, the Sunday can be historical news. The two main forms of death today, Ebola and the terrorists. Which one is more deadly? Which one is more cost more human lives? Which one has caused more misery, more suffering? It's Ebola is bad. Ebola is bad. There are 9,580 cases, two cases in the United States. Thousands and thousands of people are being checked for it. Terrorists, on the other hand, has killed 200,000 Syrians. 200,000 Syrians. Hundreds of thousands of Iraqis. It's a terror of human life. These are the two biggest forms of news today, Ebola and the terrorism. It's a sadness of human life, and one that's medical, and the other is human cost. And this is the one that brings the most death. Beheadings, genocide, rape, torture. So what one, two horrors of human life that eat up the news today. The two horrors of human life that eat up the news today. Yet, you wonder why. You wonder why. One, the human one, Ebola, will not cause more death than a terrorist. That's the hardness of human life. That's the hardness of human life. These are the two most talked about news articles in the news today. Ebola and terrorism. And terrorism is winning the war over Ebola. Terrorism is winning the war over Ebola because it kills life faster. It kills life faster. It makes it suffer, makes it fear, makes it afraid, makes you want more life, and you have no life. Ebola has claimed 4,500 some victims. Terrorists have claimed thousands upon tens of thousands and tens of thousands, tens of thousands of victims. That's the difference between a medical illness and human illness. Human illness being terrorism. That's the cost of human life, the slaughter of human life. These are the two biggest forms of death in the world today, followed by news people. And the sadness of human life is that terrorism is beating the hell out of Ebola. Terrorism is beating the hell out of Ebola. The death rate is 10 times what it is for Ebola. And that's the sadness of human life. Is there enough sickness in the world now? Is there enough sickness in the world now about the humankind, the sociopath, the narcissist, the non-empathetic killer that just takes human life with no value, wastes it? This is the sadness of human life. It really is. It's compared to two. Ebola's got 9,950 cases. Only 50% have died. Terrorism has thousands upon tens of thousands, on maybe hundreds of thousands of human lives have died from terrorism, from human terrorism. Now that says a lot for human life. It says a lot for human life. It says that we're losing the war. We're fighting Ebola on one front, fighting terrorism on another front. And we're losing the war to the terrorists. We're losing the war to Ebola. Human lives are dying by the thousands. Human lives are dying by the thousands. That's why the human station. That's why the human station. The value of human life. The care of human life. The health of human life. The giving of human life. It's what life's all about. So you deal with Ebola on one side of the world. You deal with terrorism on the other side of the world. And it doesn't change. It still costs. It still costs in human lives. It still costs in human lives. Human suffering. Human health. Either one. One is deadly. One we can shield ourselves from. The other one the world can't. Because they can strike any country or any nation. Or in Syria or Iraq or in Afghanistan. Where people are just walking the streets. Trying to find a place to live. Trying to find somewhere to sleep. Starving to death. No. Terrorism wins hands down. Terrorism wins hands down. The Ebola virus is deadly. It's very deadly. But it can only be contacted by human fluids. It cannot be contacted by air. But terrorists kill the human life. Meaninglessly kill human life. And that's the sadness of human life. That's the real sadness of human life. You compare the two. These are the two biggest items in the news today. And the terrorists are winning the war. The terrorists are winning the war versus Ebola. The deaths of Ebola versus the terrorist death. It's a crime. It's a crime that this goes on. This happens. And this hurts. It kills. It faces human life. Boko Haram, Hamas, Taliban, Al Qaeda, ISIL, the biggest family, the biggest killing terrorist of them all. And that's the sadness of human life. And one both kill, and one can be stopped. One can be stopped. If given long enough, one can be stopped and overcome if you resist. But the terrorists keep on going, until they're cut off. Until they're cut off. These are the two biggest news stories today. One is Ebola, the other one is terrorism. And terrorism is winning the war. What does that say about humankind? Humankind. Most human beings are good. But you got that 10 or 20% that are willing to sacrifice and slaughter human life faster than Ebola can take life. And that's the real sadness of human life. It really is. It's a real sadness of human life that this goes on. This goes on and on. You know, I've never seen anything like it. I've done it. I've seen a lot in my life. But this battle, another battle, one on one front, one on another front, and a human being stuck in the middle, trying to wonder if they're safe. Are you safer from Ebola? Are you safer from terrorism? Nobody can tell. You're safer from Ebola than you are from terrorism. Because terrorism can strike at any nation, at any person, at any human being. Not to say that Ebola can't, but the chances are worse for terrorism. That's the sadness of human life. It really is. It's the sadness of human life. And that human race of terrorism claims more victims than Ebola by 10 to 1. By 10 to 1. And it's a staggering amount of human lives. Where do you win? It's a fight for human life. Everybody fights to live human life day by day. But people with Ebola are sick. They get a virus they can't help. But the terrorists knowingly, willingly kill and sacrifice human life every single day of the week. And on Sundays. It's a battle of human life. It's a battle of human experience. It's a battle for human experience. The world of nations is fighting wars on two fronts. One in Western Africa, Liberia, Sierra Leone, the other one in Iraq, Syria, and Afghanistan. And the terrorists are winning the war. The terrorists are winning the war of death. That's the sadness of human life. And that's the failure of human life that we have to face every single day. When you look at the TV, or you watch a video, you watch the news. It's a frightening aspect to compare the two, because one is medical, one is man-made, one is human-made. But the terror part is the biggest part, because it costs the most in human lives. It takes human lives at a rate of 10 to 1. Decapitates them, rapes the women, decapitates children, and other things. And the suffering may not be as long, but it's just as worse. The fear of death it's got to be 10 times worse. And that's the sadness of human life. Really is the frightening part of human life. Think about it. These are the two biggest news stories in the world today. Sierra Leone, Liberia, Western Africa. On the other side, you got Iraq, Syria, Afghanistan, and other nations. Nigeria, where Boko Haram exists. Hamas, Palestine. These terrorists have caused more death than the Ebola virus. It's like fighting two enemies. One to get people well, one to save lives. This doesn't seem fair to the world. To have all this inflicted upon it. It's the sadness of human life. It really is. It is the sadness of human life. It is the failure of human life. It is the agony of human life. It really is a terror. It really is a terror. It really is a terror. If you compare the two, if you compare the two, one, it's a medical field. You can't help it. All you can do is try and make people well. And people do get well. People do get well. When you're killed by a terrorist, you never get well. You're killed by terrorists, you're never getting well. You're never going to live that life again. They're never going to live that life again. They're gone forever, laying in the streets with their heads chopped off, or butchered somewhere, or kidnapped, or anything else. It's a frightening, agonizing part of human life. On one side of the world, then you go to the other side of the world, where you got the Ebola over here. That's killing people. It's killed 4,450 people. But you go look at the terrorist side. It's killed tens of thousands of human lives by everything from guns, bombs, to decapitations, to beheadings, to rape, to violation. Where does the human race live? Where does the human race win? Where does the human race win? When we kill more of our own, when we see more of our own people killed by human life than they do by disease. That's a frightening, frightening thought. That's a frightening thought. These are the two biggest news stories on the air today: Ebola and terrorism. And we're losing the war to terrorism. But we're holding our own with the Ebola virus. We're holding our own with the Ebola virus. But we're losing the war on terrorism. We're winning, but it's taking too many lives to cost it. It's taking too many lives to cost it. And that's the sadness of human life. And terrorists are non-empathetic, sociopathic killers. They just mutilate, butcher, and slaughter human life. They're even killing their own kind now. They're even killing their own kind now. Where do you win? Where does the world win? Where does the world win? Like I said, human change has to be for all human beings. Has to be for all human beings. This is what we're facing in the world today. A world full of death, sickness, and darkness. And it has to change. It has to change. Hopefully, with the wars that are going on now, it will change. It will change. It's a sadness of human life. It really is. But it's a war. If these were the two biggest news stories, we compare the two biggest news. The two biggest news. And the death is more by terrorism than it is by Ebola. You've got 10,000 cases of Ebola. How many terrorists have killed people over the year, over the last 9-10 months? 20,000, 50,000, 100,000. How many have been decapitated? Hundreds. 11,000 incidents in Assad's torture chamber of death and horror and ugliness, which means that the world may give us sickness, but the human race creates more hideousness for itself than is needed, than is asked for, than is wanted. Because these are the two biggest news stories on the internet and on TV today and in the newspaper. These are the two biggest stories. But the frightening part is that the terrorists are more deadly than the Ebola virus, than AIDS. Millions suffer with AIDS in Africa, but millions are displaced in Syria. See how the two intertwine with each other? It's like the death of human life. Ebola or terrorism. Ebola and terrorism. It's the death of human life. It's the slaughter of human life. It's the butchery of human life. But Ebola, you get sick, and people can help you. People care for you. People are around you. People help you. But if you're with a terrorist, nothing's going to happen to you but get beheaded or killed. Peter Cossack. They try to make him be Abdul Rahim. You can't make people. You do it out of fear. They do it out of fear for their life. People have Ebola fear for their life. People have lived with terrorists, live in terror and fear. That's a big difference. That's a mighty big difference in human life. Mighty big difference in human life. You're not tortured or butchered or blasted or bombed or blown up or killed or decapitated with Ebola. You get sick, people are there to care for you. Makeshift hospitals, or hospitals here. But where do you have a hospital for terrorists? Where do you have a hospital for terrorists? Because there is none. It's a slaughter of human life. It's a chaos of human life. It's a murder of human life. The torture of human life. And that's the sadness of human life. I don't understand that people, we're supposed to be adults. We're supposed to be human beings. Snuff out life like that. Just snuff out life like a snap of fingers. And that's the difference in human life. That's the difference in human life. That's the difference. That's what makes the difference in the world. These are the two biggest news stories we're fighting in the world today. The RAF is bombing Iraq. We're bombing ISIS. The RAF, Royal Australian Air Force, bomb Iraq to try and stop ISIS. We have to take lives to save lives. Ebola, you don't have to take a life to save a life. You just saved a life, or helped a life, or the life dies. But with terror, you have to take a life to stop the killing of life. That's the difference. One is mortal. One is sick. One is mortal. One is sick. It's the saddest thing in life. Really is. What do you compare it to? What do you compare it to? Terrorism far outweighs Ebola. Far outweighs Ebola. It costs them more lives. It costs them more value. It costs them more bloodshed. It costs them more suffering. It costs them more hatred, more bigotry. And they use any type of weapon they can. Knife, gun, machete, whatever they can use. Bombs, grenades, missiles, rocket launchers. Now, terror wins in hands down. Terror wins in hands down. Terror wins in hands down. Terror wins the death of human life hands down. And that's the sadness of human life. That's the sadness of human life. That these sociopaths take more human life than a medical illness. And that's really sad. That's really, really sad and grotesque. Really gory. They already beheaded 3 people, plus the people they beheaded in this country. In Syria, they're decapitating their own people now. They're killing their own people now. What do I mean? We have to make war. You have to make war to stop the death of innocent people compared to people who are donating their time. And one that got sick and died, helping to save human lives. That's the difference between humanity and inhumanity. And man's inhumanity to humanity. And that's the sadness of human life. It really is. It's a course. There are 2 paths. You go to one side, you go to Sierra Leone, you go to Liberia, you go to Western Africa. They're fighting Ebola with everything they've got. People are over there. Troops are over there. Medical people are over there. They're trying to save lives. They're fighting to save lives. They're fighting to look for a vaccine. They're trying everything they can to save lives. Now turn on the other hand and look at Syria, Iraq, and Afghanistan, where life has become meaningless. It's easier to chop off their head than it is to let them live. And that's the 2 differences in life between the medical and the human. The humankind in Syria, Iraq, and Afghanistan are killing more human lives than the entire case of Ebola, than the entire sickness of Ebola. That doesn't speak loudly for the human race. Doesn't speak loudly for the human race in these nations. Doesn't speak loudly that the human innocents die more by human beings who are supposed to be human beings than a disease. That's sad, man. It's really sad. These are the 2 biggest stories on news today. You choose. You choose. You choose the side that you're on. It's not the side that you're on. You choose which is worse, Ebola or terrorism. It's a sadness of human life. It really is. It's grotesque. It's grotesque. It's grotesque, horrifying, and ugly. That's terror. Sickness is help, care, and help. There's still millions of people that need help in Western Africa. that are suffering with AIDS. Even then, those people are beginning to get help. But you go on the other side of the world, from Sierra Leone, where all these people are dying. They're worried about overpopulation. What isn't killing us medically? We're killing each other. They're killing each other. They're killing each other for nothing but power, greed, and money. And that's all it is. That's all it is. Because people want to dictate to human life. People want to command human life. People want the fear of human life. That's the sadness of human life. It really is bad. But when you compare it to the terrorism far outweighs Ebola. And they're doing everything they can here. They named a guy, Crane, who's going to look out and they're going to track the Ebola virus in this country to make sure people are safe. But how safe are we from terrorists? How safe are we from terrorists? It could happen at any time. It could happen at any time. Same as the Ebola. But hopefully, they're going to stop the flights coming in from these countries, at least for now, so people won't get risk of Ebola. But you can't do that with terrorists. You can't do that with terrorists because they hide. They hide in the dark of the night, but they kill. They're much more lethal than the Ebola virus. They're much more lethal than the Ebola virus. And that's a sadness to human life to have to say. That's a sadness to human life to have to say. It really is. If you stop and think about it, if you stop and think about it, Ebola kills, but terrorists torture, maim, and kill. Suffering on one side with an illness, throwing up and vomiting, getting gutted, your head chopped off, your legs chopped off, your limbs chopped off. This is the world we live in. This is the world we live in. The two sides of the world. Two sides of the world is the world that they live in. The human beings suffer much harder here than they do over here because of the simple fact that humanity's willingness to do evil for power, greed, and money, or even religion, is more powerful than the disease. That's the sadness of human life. It really is. It's a failure of human life on the other side of the world. You're going to get more death out of Iraq, Syria, and Afghanistan by human costs than you're going to get from the Ebola virus. And that's just really a shame of human life. Not that I want people to die from Ebola, because I don't. But I'm weighing the two factors. I'm weighing the two biggest news factors today in the world. Terrorism, the war on terror, and Ebola. And that's a sadness of human life. That's a sadness of human life. So on one side of the world, people are fighting for their lives. On the other side of the world, people are fighting to take lives. People are fighting to take human lives. That's the difference. That's the human and medical difference between killing of human life and the helping of human life. One side is helping human life. The other side is executing it, beheading it, chopping its head off, butchering it. That's the two sides of the world. The rest of the world is stuck in between. It's a frightening thought if you look at both views. It's a frightening thought if you look at both views. Really is sad. Really is sad that this has to happen. That this has to happen. But the only way to stop ISIS is to blow them out of the water. And keep blowing them out of the water. Keep blowing them out of the water until they give and they quit. In the meantime, the Ebola virus, people have 50% survival rate. That's better than you do with a terrorist. That's better than you do with a terrorist. Because they're going to kill you for sure. It's a 100% fact of death in terrorism. It's interesting to compare the two. It is interesting to compare the two. On two different sides of the world. Two different sides of the world. With the rest of the world stuck in between, watching all this go on. This is 7 Big Historical News. Thank you for watching. Terrorism wins hands down. Terrorism wins hands down. And that's the sadness of human life. That's the failure of human life. And the Ebola virus is not as dangerous as the human terrorists. The Ebola virus is not as dangerous is the human terrorist. And that's the sadness of human life. These are the two biggest news stories in the world today. Iraq, Syria, Afghanistan, Sierra Leone, Liberia, Nigeria, and Western Africa. One brings death. They both bring death. But one brings more death by human hand than by human sickness. This is something big story of news. It's an interesting comparison. An interesting comparison of human life. Thank you for watching.